The war room on Velta hummed with crystalline resonance as Admiral Kesithak studied the holographic display floating above the obsidian command table. 12 crimson markers indicated the positions where Zephyrian reconnaissance vessels had disappeared without transmitting even basic telemetry. Each ship had been investigating the same unremarkable star system, a backwater region harboring a primitive species designated as humans. "Display the combat recordings," Kesithak commanded, his scale digits clicking against the table's polished surface. The hologram shifted, projecting grainy footage from the few scouts that had managed to relay data before their destruction. War Commander Vexenari leaned forward, his ceremonial armor reflecting the blue luminescence of the display. "These beings employ crude kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives," Vexenari observed. Their technology lagged centuries behind Imperial standards, yet they eliminated 3 reconnaissance flotillas. The footage revealed human vessels, angular and utilitarian compared to the flowing aesthetics of Zephyrian craft. Rather than elegant energy weapons, they fired solid metal slugs at tremendous velocities. Instead of adaptive shield matrices, they relied on thick armor plating. The technology appeared primitive until the recording showed a human destroyer penetrating a Zephyrian cruiser's defensive screens through sheer kinetic force, tearing the vessel apart with raw momentum. "They violate fundamental combat doctrine," muttered Subcommander Thilikari, his azure features twisted in bewilderment. "When outnumbered, proper protocol demands strategic withdrawal. When outgunned, surrender preserves honor. Instead, they intensify their aggression." Admiral Kesithak had governed 12-star systems for over 40 rotations, never encountering a species that defied military logic so completely. The humans controlled merely one solar system and possessed technology the Zephyrian Empire had abandoned millennia ago, yet they had engaged as scouts with ferocity bordering on insanity. "Perhaps they lacked comprehension of surrender," suggested tactical analyst Morvid from her position at the data terminals. "Xenobiology teams theorize they evolved from pack-hunting predators, which might explain their aggressive responses." The Admiral's tail lashed with irritation. Throughout his campaigns across the galaxy, species either submitted to Zephyrian superiority or were crushed by overwhelming force. The humans fit neither category, too weak to pose genuine threat, yet too stubborn to accept inevitable defeat. Commander Jake Morrison floated in Lunar Station's observation deck, watching Earth's blue-white marble rotate slowly beneath him. The planet appeared peaceful from this distance, but Jake knew that appearance deceived. Every major nation had activated full military alert following the latest alien encounter near the asteroid belt. "So, incoming transmission from Fleet Command," announced Communications Officer Amy Turner from the bridge. Jake propelled himself through the zero-gravity corridor toward the command center. Lunar Station bustled with activity as personnel prepared for what everyone anticipated. Originally constructed as a research facility, recent months had transformed it into humanity's primary defensive outpost. Mining equipment had been converted into improvised weapons, cargo haulers fitted with armor plating, and every available vessel pressed into military service. Jake entered the bridge where his senior staff had assembled. Pilot Lisa Chang operated holographic displays, running flight simulations. Engineer Carlos Rodriguez hunched over technical readouts, modifying power systems to extract maximum performance. Marine Sergeant Ryan Cooper studied defensive positions throughout the solar system. "What's the situation?" Jake asked, settling into his command chair. Amy's fingers danced across her communication panel. "President Washington has authorized complete mobilization. All military units are repositioning, and civilian populations in major cities are moving to underground shelters. Any contact with outer patrol ships. Neptune Station went silent 6 hours ago. Last transmission indicated massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. Jake felt his stomach constrict. Neptune Station housed early warning sensors capable of detecting incoming vessels from several light years away. Their silence meant the aliens had already entered the solar system. Carlos looked up from his engineering station. "Sir, I've analyzed wreckage from previous encounters. These aliens utilize energy-based shielding systems. Our conventional weapons barely scratch them. But I've been considering alternative approaches. Kinetic impact using raw mass and velocity. Their shields appear designed to disperse energy, but solid objects at high speed might penetrate directly." Lisa nodded enthusiastically. That explains why mining ships outperformed destroyers in the last engagement. Those asteroid haulers were built to handle massive rock chunks. Jake considered this intelligence while watching tactical displays update with new contact appearing at sensor range. Dozens of alien ships approached the inner system in formation, suggesting military precision and overwhelming confidence. On Velta, Admiral Kesethek finalized his battle plans. The Crimson Talon fleet consisted of 60 capital ships, each capable of reducing a planet to molten slag. Accompanying them were 300 smaller vessels and nearly 50,000 of the Empire's finest warriors, the largest force ever assembled for a single campaign. War Commander Vexenari will lead the assault, Kesethek announced to assembled officers. These humans have proven resourceful, but cannot withstand Imperial might. We shall offer one surrender opportunity. If they refuse, we demonstrate why no species defies Zephyrian authority. Vexenari stood and bowed formally. "It shall be an honor, Admiral. How long do you estimate this campaign will require?" "No more than 10 solar rotations. Primitive weapons and desperate tactics cannot overcome superior technology and proper military doctrine. Once these humans witness our full strength, they will beg for slavery's mercy rather than face annihilation." Other officers chittered agreement, but Kesethek noticed Morvith remained silent, still studying battle recordings with troubled expression. "You have concerns?" he inquired. "Only observations, Admiral. These humans seem to escalate resistance proportionally to threats they face. The larger our scout forces, the more violently they responded. I wonder what they might do when confronted with our complete fleet." Kesethek waved dismissively. "Fear, most likely. When they observe 60 capital ships descending upon their homeworld, they will understand resistance's futility. No species fights battles they cannot win." As the Crimson Talon fleet prepared to depart Velta, neither Admiral Kesethek nor War Commander Vexenari could imagine they were about to encounter a species that viewed impossible odds not as reason for surrender, but as challenge to overcome. Humans had spent their entire evolutionary history fighting superior predators, harsher environments, and each other. The concept of hopeless battle was not in their vocabulary. The first warning came from Deep Space Monitoring Station orbiting Pluto when sensor technician Bobby Clark detected massive energy signatures materializing at the solar system's edge. His hands trembled as he counted contacts on his screen, each representing a ship larger than anything humanity had ever constructed. 60 massive vessels accompanied by hundreds of smaller craft, all moving in perfect formation toward inner planets. "Deep Space Monitor 1 to Fleet Command," Bobby transmitted, his voice steady despite coursing fear. "Multiple contacts detected. Repeat, multiple alien contacts approaching from galactic north. Count approximately 350 vessels with 60 appearing capital class." The message flashed across communication networks throughout human space, reaching every military installation, government facility, and civilian authority within minutes. On Lunar Station, Commander Jake Morrison received the transmission while reviewing defensive plans with senior staff. "Time to intercept." Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would not be favorable. Communications Officer Amy Turner checked calculations twice before responding. At current velocity, lead elements reach Neptune's orbit in 18 hours. Main fleet arrives at Mars' orbit in 72 hours. The number struck Jake like physical blow. 72 hours to prepare for battle against impossible odds. He surveyed his officers, seeing his own grim determination reflected in their faces. None harbored illusions about their chances, yet none suggested retreat. On Earth, President Helen Washington stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the White House, surrounded by top military advisors and civilian leadership. The main display showed the alien fleet's approach vector, a red arrow pointing directly at human civilization's heart. Options? She asked simply. Secretary of Defense Paul Mitchell spoke first. We have approximately 230 combat-capable vessels scattered throughout the system. Most are converted civilian ships with improvised weapon systems. Our total firepower is less than intelligence estimates for a single alien capital ship. Diplomatic options. Secretary of State Karen Adams shook her head. We broadcast on all frequencies since first contact incidents. They've never responded to communication attempts. Previous actions suggest they are not interested in negotiation. General Robert King, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward over the tactical display. Madam President, our conventional forces cannot win this engagement. However, we might make them pay dearly for victory. Analysis of previous encounters suggests these aliens expect quick, decisive battles. They are unprepared for extended resistance. President Washington nodded slowly. She had spent sleepless nights reviewing every intelligence fragment about the alien visitors. The pattern was clear: overwhelming technological superiority backed by tactical predictability. They followed rigid battle doctrines, used standardized formations, and seemed genuinely confused by human unpredictability. Implement Plan Defiance, she ordered. Send word to all fleet units and planetary defense forces. We're not running and we're not surrendering. If they want Earth, they'll take it from us. At the solar system's edge, War Commander Vexenari stood on his flagship's bridge, the Inevitable Conquest asterisk, watching human space grow larger on the main display. The bridge was a marvel of Zephyrian engineering with crystalline control surfaces and holographic displays responding to thought as much as touch. Status report, he commanded. All ships in formation and proceeding on schedule, responded his tactical officer. Long-range sensors detect human vessels moving to intercept, but their numbers are insignificant. We count fewer than 50 ships of destroyer class or larger. Vexenari's mandibles clicked with amusement. 50 ships against his 350. The humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Given their previous behavior, he suspected both. Open communication channel to all human vessels and installations, he ordered. Time to offer them surrender with dignity. The transmission reaching human receivers was broadcast on multiple frequencies and translated into dozens of Earth languages. Vexenari's voice carried authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. Primitive inhabitants of this system, I am War Commander Vexenari of the Zephyrian Empire. You have violated Imperial space and destroyed Imperial vessels. However, the Empire is merciful to those who acknowledge their mistakes. Surrender immediately and submit to Imperial authority, and your species will be granted the honor of serving the Empire. Resist, and you will be eliminated. You have one of your solar rotations to respond. The message reached Captain Steve Martinez aboard Patrol Vessel New Frontier as he led a squadron of converted freighters toward Neptune's orbit. Steve had spent 20 years in the Earth Defense Force, working from enlisted sailor to ship commander. He never expected to find himself commanding humanity's first official diplomatic contact with an alien species. Communications. Open channel to the alien fleet, Steve ordered. Let's see if we can talk sense into these people. His response was simple and direct. This is Captain Steve Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. We received your message and discussed it with our leadership. We're not interested in joining your empire, but we're also not interested in unnecessary conflict. If you withdraw from our solar system, we'll forget this encounter happened. However, we will not surrender our freedom to anyone, regardless of their technological advantages. The reply 30 minutes later carried incredulous anger. You dare make demands of the Zephyrian Empire? Your arrogance will be your destruction. Prepare to face consequences of defying imperial authority. Steve smiled grimly as he shared the communication with his crew. Well, folks, diplomacy's off the table. All ships, assume battle formation KO7. Let's show these aliens what happens when they mess with Earth. Battle formation KO7 was exactly what its name suggested. Organized confusion designed to frustrate enemies expecting predictable tactics. Human ships scattered across wide areas, using asteroid fields and planetary debris as cover. Instead of maintaining neat formations, they moved in seemingly random patterns, making targeting difficult. First skirmishes began near Neptune's orbit when advanced elements of the Zephyrian fleet encountered Captain Martinez's squadron. Humans had learned from previous encounters that direct confrontation meant suicide, so they employed hit-and-run tactics their ancestors had perfected in naval warfare centuries earlier. Lieutenant Ben Carter led 3 converted mining ships in an attack run against a Zephyrian cruiser, using Neptune's largest moon as cover. The alien ship's energy weapons could have vaporized his entire squadron, but the aliens seemed reluctant to fire when targets moved unpredictably through debris fields. Target their engine section, Ben ordered as his ships accelerated toward the cruiser. Maximum kinetic impact, then break off immediately. The mining ships had been designed to move massive asteroid or chunks, and their reinforced hull could withstand tremendous impacts. When they fired their cargo launchers at point-blank range, solid metal projectiles punched through the cruiser's energy shields and tore into hull plating. The Zephyrian vessel staggered under unexpected assault, its elegant lines marred by ragged holes where human projectiles had penetrated defenses. Warning lights flashed across its bridge as damage control teams rushed to contain hull breaches. "How is this possible?" demanded the ship's commander. "Their weapons are primitive chemical propulsion systems. Our shield should have deflected such crude attacks easily." His tactical officer studied sensor readings with growing confusion. "So, the projectiles were moving at nearly 10% of light speed when they impacted our shields. The kinetic energy was enormous. Our shield matrix is designed to disperse energy weapons, not absorb massive physical impacts." Similar encounters occurred throughout the outer solar system as human forces employed tactics the Zephyrians had never encountered. Instead of engaging in formal battle lines, humans attacked from unexpected angles, used civilian ships as decoys, and turned mining equipment into improvised weapon systems. On Lunar Station, Commander Morrison coordinated the defense while monitoring reports from across the system. Each engagement revealed new information about alien capabilities and weaknesses, intelligence that would prove crucial in battles to come. "They are excellent at what they expect," he told his staff during a brief lull in fighting. "Energy weapons, shield technology, formal military doctrine. But they don't know how to handle chaos, and they are not prepared for kinetic weapons moving at speeds we can achieve." Engineer Carlos Rodriguez nodded enthusiastically. "I've been analyzing battle data, and I think I understand why. Their civilization is old and stable. They've probably fought the same kinds of wars for thousands of years. We're doing things they've never seen because we've never had their advantages. The battle for Mars' orbit became a nightmare that War Commander Vexenari would remember for the rest of his life, though that would prove shorter than he expected. His fleet had approached the Red Planet, expecting another quick victory against inferior human forces. Instead, they found a carefully orchestrated trap, defying every principle of civilized warfare. Commander Morrison had spent the previous 48 hours coordinating with every available human ship in the system, using Mars as a focal point for humanity's most desperate gambit. The planet's orbital infrastructure had been converted into a massive weapons platform, with mining stations launching asteroids at incredible velocities and communications satellites repurposed as targeting systems. They are coming in exactly as predicted, reported pilot Lisa Chong from her tactical display position. 60 capital ships in standard Imperial formation with escort vessels arranged in protective screens. They are following their doctrine perfectly. Morrison nodded grimly. Predictability was exactly what they were counting on. Signal all units. Operation Sledgehammer is a go. Hidden throughout Mars' orbit, nearly 100 human vessels waited for the signal. They included everything from military destroyers to converted garbage scows fitted with kinetic weapons and crewed by volunteers who knew they faced impossible odds. The plan was simple in concept but terrifying in execution. Instead of fighting the aliens ship to ship, they would turn the entire orbital zone into a chaotic battlefield where superior technology meant nothing. Technical Sergeant Katie Walsh crouched in the cargo bay of transport vessel Freedom's Price checking improvised explosives her team had constructed from mining charges and industrial chemicals. Her job was perhaps the most dangerous, boarding enemy vessels and causing havoc from within. "Remember, people," she told her squad of 20 Marines, "these aliens think war is a gentleman's game with rules and protocols. We're going to show them what humans do when there are no rules." The first wave of attacks came not from human ships, but from orbital infrastructure itself. Mars stations began launching everything they could accelerate: chunks of processed ore, construction materials, even decommissioned satellites. The projectiles were crude and unguided, but there were thousands of them, creating a deadly debris cloud that forced the Zephyrian fleet to slow their advance. "What are they doing?" demanded Vexenari as his flagship shuddered under impact from metal fragments. "This is not warfare. This is madness." His tactical officer's face showed confusion spreading throughout the alien fleet. "So, they appear to be using their entire industrial infrastructure as weapons. Our sensors detect over 3,000 individual projectiles in various approach vectors." Before Vexenari could respond, the real attack began. Human ships emerged from behind planets, moons, and asteroid fields, accelerating at speeds that should have torn their crews apart. They had disabled inertial compensators and artificial gravity systems, accepting brutal physical punishment in exchange for maneuverability their alien opponents could not match. Captain Danny Wright led the first assault wave in his converted freighter Last Stand Star. His crew strapped into acceleration couches as the ship pulled 15 gravities in a spiraling attack run. Blood vessels burst in his eyes from crushing force, but he kept hands steady on controls as his ship fired every weapon at the nearest Zephyrian cruiser. The aliens had never encountered crews willing to disable their own safety systems for tactical advantage. Their vessels were limited by the need to keep crews alive and conscious, while human ships pushed far beyond safe operational parameters. The result was attacks from impossible angles at incredible speeds, turning orderly Zephyrian formation into chaos. The most devastating attack came from Technical Sergeant Walsh and her boarding team. Using a technique developed in asteroid mining industry, they had modified their transport to match the rotational velocity of the enemy flagship, allowing them to literally crash through the ship's hull and fight their way inside. Walsh found herself in a corridor filled with crystalline surfaces and soft blue lighting, facing aliens who stood 7 feet tall but moved with fluid grace of dancers. The Zephyrians were obviously evolved for different environments, their elegant forms seeming almost fragile compared to the compact, muscular builds of a Marine squad. "Spread out and find their command center," she ordered. "Remember, we're not here to win. We're here to cause chaos." The fighting inside the alien ship became a running battle through corridors and chambers designed for aesthetics rather than defense. The Zephyrians were skilled warriors, but they fought according to code of honor that included formal challenges and single combat. Walsh's Marines ignored such niceties, using explosives, ambush tactics, and coordinated team attacks that left their opponents confused and demoralized. Meanwhile, in the ship's depths, engineer Carlos Rodriguez was discovering something that would change the entire battle's course. He had been analyzing captured Zephyrian technology for weeks, and the boarding action gave him his first chance to examine their systems in detail. "Katie, get over here," he called as he studied a bank of control systems. "Look at this. Their entire fleet is networked together through some kind of quantum communication system. If we can disrupt it, we might blind their whole formation." Walsh looked at the alien technology with eyes trained to destroy things efficiently. "Can you jury-rig an overload?" "Maybe, but it might take down this whole ship with us on it." "Do it. We knew this was a one-way mission when we signed up." The explosion that destroyed the Inevitable Conquest also sent cascade failure through the Zephyrian fleet communication network. Suddenly, 60 capital ships found themselves operating independently without the coordinated targeting and tactical data that had made them so effective. Each ship became isolated, forced to rely on its own senses in a chaotic battlefield filled with debris and unpredictable human attacks. Captain Steve Martinez chose that moment to implement the most audacious part of the human battle plan. Leading a formation of heavy cruisers, he accelerated directly toward the alien formation center at maximum thrust, broadcasting on all frequencies a battle cry that would become legend: "Remember Oath." The charge of the heavy cruisers was desperation that became inspiration. Human ships throughout the battle zone took up the call, abandoning defensive positions to launch coordinated attacks against alien vessels that could no longer communicate effectively with each other. Commander Morrison watched the battle from Lunar Station, coordinating supplies and reinforcements while monitoring casualty reports that climbed higher by the minute. Humanity was winning, but the cost was terrible. Nearly half the human fleet had been destroyed or disabled, and thousands of brave men and women had given their lives to prove Earth would not surrender without a fight. "Status report," he called to his bridge crew. Amy Turner's voice was hoarse from hours of coordinating communications. "Alien fleet is in full retreat toward Jupiter orbit. They've lost 23 capital ships and most escort vessels. Our remaining forces are pursuing but maintaining distance. And our losses: 4 to 7 ships destroyed, 38 damaged beyond immediate repair. Casualty count is still coming in, but preliminary estimates suggest over 8,000 dead or missing." The numbers hit Morrison like a physical blow, but he forced himself to remain focused on the tactical situation. The aliens were retreating, but they still outnumbered surviving human forces. This battle was won, but the war was far from over. In the wreckage of his flagship, War Commander Vexenari drifted in a damaged escape pod, watching debris from the greatest military disaster in Zephyrian history spread across Mars' orbit. His empire's finest fleet had been shattered by primitive humans using improvised weapons and tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. His final transmission to Admiral Kesithak will be brief and devastating. Request immediate reinforcement. Human resistance far exceeds all projections. They fight like no species we have ever encountered. Standard Imperial doctrine is ineffective against their chaotic tactics. Recommend full strategic reassessment of this campaign. Admiral Kesithak stood before the holographic display in his war room, staring at tactical readouts showing the remnants of his once mighty Crimson Talon fleet scattered across the outer reaches of the human solar system. The numbers were impossible to accept. 43 capital ships destroyed, over 200 escort vessels eliminated, and nearly 60,000 of the Empire's finest warriors dead or missing. "Show me the recordings again," he ordered, though he had already watched them dozens of times. Each viewing only deepened his confusion about how primitive humans had achieved such devastating victory. The hologram displayed scenes of chaos defying everything Kesithak understood about warfare. Human ships attacking from impossible angles, crews operating under gravitational forces that should have killed them, and tactics that seemed designed by madmen rather than military professionals. Most disturbing were the human boarding actions where small groups of warriors had disabled ships 100 times their size through sheer audacity and ruthless efficiency. War Commander Vexenari, recently rescued from his flagship's wreckage, stood beside the Admiral with his left arm in a regeneration cast. His report had been brief and troubling. Humanity did not fight according to any recognizable military doctrine, and their willingness to sacrifice themselves for tactical advantage made them nearly impossible to counter. "They destroyed our communication network first," Vexenari explained, his voice still hoarse from smoke inhalation. "Without coordinated targeting data, our ships became isolated targets. Then they used their industrial infrastructure as weapons, turning entire orbital stations into kinetic bombardment platforms. But their technology is primitive," Kesithak insisted. "Metal projectiles and chemical explosives cannot overcome energy shields and plasma weapons." "That is what we believed, Admiral. But kinetic weapons moving at near-light speeds carry enormous energy. Our shields were designed to disperse energy attacks, not absorb massive physical impacts. The humans exploited a weakness we never knew existed." Meanwhile, in the depths of space near Jupiter's orbit, the surviving human fleet was undergoing rapid repairs and reinforcement. Ships damaged in the Mars battle were being patched together with salvaged components, while new vessels arrived hourly from Earth's industrial centers. The victory had cost humanity dearly, but it had also proven that the aliens could be defeated. Commander Morrison found himself promoted to Admiral after the previous fleet commander had been killed during the final assault on the alien formation. He now commanded over 300 vessels of various sizes, the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. The responsibility weighed heavily as he studied intelligence reports from across the solar system. "What's our status on alien survivors?" he asked during his morning briefing with senior staff. Intelligence Officer Tracy Johnson consulted her datapad before responding. "We've recovered approximately 2,000 alien personnel from destroyed ships. Most are willing to cooperate in exchange for medical treatment. Their information has been extremely valuable in understanding their technology and tactical doctrine. And what have we learned? They are completely unprepared for asymmetric warfare. Their entire military structure is based on formal engagements between organized fleets using standardized tactics. The concept of irregular warfare is literally foreign to them." Engineer Carlos Rodriguez, who had survived the boarding action on the alien flagship, added his own observations. "Their technology is impressive but inflexible. Everything is designed to work within predetermined parameters. When we forced them outside those parameters, their systems couldn't adapt." Chapter 11. The Empire Strikes Back. On the Zephyrian homeworld of Velta, Emperor Kethanari convened an emergency session of the High Command to address the crisis threatening the Empire's very foundation. The loss of the Crimson Talon fleet was not just a military disaster. It was a challenge to Zephyrian authority that could inspire rebellion throughout their territory. "This cannot be allowed to stand," the Emperor declared, his ancient voice carrying absolute authority. "If primitive humans can defeat our finest warriors, other species will begin questioning our dominance. We must crush this rebellion before it spreads." Admiral Kesethek bowed formally before responding. "Your Majesty, I have already begun mobilizing the 2nd, 4th, and 7th battle fleets. Combined, they represent over 400 capital ships and the largest military force in our history. And you believe this will be sufficient?" The humans achieved victory through surprise and unconventional tactics. Now that we understand their methods, we can adapt our strategies accordingly. Overwhelming force applied correctly will resolve the situation permanently. But even as Kesethek spoke with confidence, he harbored private doubts about the wisdom of escalating the conflict. The humans had already demonstrated capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about warfare, and their apparent willingness to die rather than surrender suggested determination the Empire had never encountered. Has humanity defiant? Back in the human solar system, civilian pilot Jenny Brooks was leading a training program that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, and even luxury yachts were being converted into military vessels, their crew's tea.